What are we thinking?
It's still catching up.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's looking good.
Yeah, it's big,
Yeah,
takes up most of it, but it's got the
yeah.
tiniest little blackness in the
Yep,
middle, right?
yep. I like it.
All
I
right.
like it.
But
Yeah, I'm cool. Real cool.
you're so cool.
So cool.
Do it in a minute.
Yes, that's exactly what we want. Yep,
How are we feeling about this?
that looks good to me.
Okay, and while we're here, is the audio decent and whatever?
Oh, that's a good question.
All right.
Sounds good. Looks good. All right, we'll see you. We'll see you after the intro song. This is the Pinemen.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, and welcome to the Pinemen.
Yes, welcome.
Um,
It feels like we haven't. Did we skip
we
time?
we did last week, and last week we did propaganda stuff. We
Oh,
looked some
right,
stuff
right, right, right.
about Ukraine. We talked, yeah,
Yes,
that was
yes.
last week. And now, um, you were telling me that you have maybe a change of heart, it seems, or you
Uh,
have maybe some more.
yeah, I guess it's just more like this whole situation going on in Ukraine, just the invasion.
Mhm.
Um, has I don't know. It just kind of shook up, the little sediment
Yeah.
that made me just kind of think like, hold on a minute, like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I have the answer. Don't. I mean, there's a lot of it, a lot that goes into it, obviously. But I just mean like, just for me personally, because it's kind of coincidental. I'm not going to try to. Obviously, I think it's kind of ridiculous totally ridiculous when people like equate Russia today, the Russian
Yeah.
Federation, with like the Soviet Union, for example. And like we talk about that stuff pretty often, especially me, I do. And
Yeah.
coming from, but you've read some Karl Marx and stuff like that, and like
Yeah.
I have like looked at a lot of info about like Vladimir Lenin's ideas and stuff like that, like going into it, or well, maybe not so much going into it, but like at the beginning of the revolution and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
basically just I don't know, to put it in a simple way, it like this is just kind of making me realize like all of that stuff that I just mentioned, and then add on top of that like all the stuff with like NATO, and they want to give aid, but they kind of can't. They basically can't give like direct aid, and get all this stuff with nuclear weapons, and all this sanctions, and how it's going to affect regular people, and just all these details. Just it really has made me like feel a lot more unforgiving towards like the I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but like yeah, like less accepting of the idea that like okay, a revolution happened with like Marxist ideology, behind it, and the goal was to like seize state power and
Mhm.
then use that, and those who were seizing it basically considered themselves part of the working class, and but with the idea that like, well, we're the ones we have the plan, we have the vision, we have the education, or whatever, like,
Yeah.
and we'll implement this and make it, it'll be in everybody's best interests, even though there'll be like resistance at first, but those, maybe those people can't be convinced, or maybe they could be convinced, see what happens kind of thing. But we
Mhm.
need to impose our will on the people because it's for their benefit, and
Yeah.
seeing. So okay, this is. I thought I was going to explain this really quickly, but like, okay, I'll just go with it. Whatever, we're doing
No, I
this.
like this. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is in depth.
So and this is just my thinking. I'm not saying I'm 100% right about any of this, but like, whatever. But so you take that into account, right? The idea of
Mhm.
like people like Marxists seizing state power to implement, you know, early, like the wording is whatever, but like as most people understand it, like socialism with the intent to get to communism, right? And
Mhm.
and just my I obviously have like a issue with a lot of the stuff that was done during that period, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like and
Yeah.
while they were in power and stuff, like the majority of it, is like horrific. Or at the very least just like totally like a failure to, not totally, but like in some stuff is totally a failure to the very people that they're trying to help,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
But like but then you could even go further, and some stuff is just like downright like inhumane beyond belief. You know what I mean? But I always was like, but okay, they actually did something that like no one else has done before at that point, and like they like succeeded in the sense that they like maintained power for a long time. You know what I mean? And actually like defended themselves and protected against like people trying to like crush the revolution and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And or whatever. And I was like, you know what? This is something you can learn from it, and I still think that. You know what I mean? But like, I did think like now's, I did think like, well, but add on top, but basically the ideas were good, but the just
Yeah.
then you got people like Stalin getting involved and all
Exactly.
this, causing like all these problems. And like if that just didn't happen, then it would have, who knows what direction it could have gone in. It could have been better, you know what I mean? Something like that. That was pretty
Yeah.
much my opinion, for a while. And I guess it's not like it's wildly different. Well, it basically this is what I'm getting at. I realized like it's not that like, oh man, like someone like Stalin got in control, and then after that like just opportunistic people just kind of took control and like kind of ran it into the ground and didn't really like implement they didn't like stay true to the like idea behind it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they have to keep making like, oh well, we can't really do that because we have to sacrifice that for this greater good. But it's like it ends up being like, well, there's not that much good stuff. There's not that much good going on because you keep cutting out the good stuff, well, or preventing the good stuff from happening for the greater good, which is like,
Yeah.
whatever. But like, I don't know. Just it seems so obvious that like that's just like built into any kind of like hierarchical or whatever, hierarchical system. Like even if it started with the best intentions, which that's even, that's there's always debatable stuff about this,
Yeah.
specifically the Soviet Union. Like the reason why
Yeah.
I talk about it a lot is just because it's like people write it off as like, oh, it's the same as like, it's just a evil, terrible, horrific thing. When in actuality, there are things that you could learn from it. You know what I mean? Positive things, like a lot of
Yeah.
positive things. But there's also a lot of horrific things that you should learn from also. You know what I mean? But for people to just write it off in its entirety, it's like, okay, well, let's at least look into it. Why not? Why not? And
Yeah.
but when you have a system like that, where even in the beginning, it may start off with like the best intentions, with like a real plan, and we're only taking power because we need to get it away from the ruling class, and will be, the voices of the people, and will, you know, rule over them in a way that benefits them, basically.
Yeah.
But at the just right off the bat, it's like I don't see how any form of like someone ruling over someone else, you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
clear class distinction of like real power backing it, you know?
Yeah.
Like over time, how can it, the parameters by which leadership would be determined changes so
Yeah.
quickly. Like at first it might be, oh, this was my idea. I did the planning and like kind of like Lenin for example. And
Mhm.
but then now to gain power, it's not a matter of becoming like really, realizing uh like a like philosophy or like a economic system that is like conceptual at the time. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
you just rise through the ranks like any other power system. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and then who's going to rise to the top of that? People who want power and control and things like that, right? And who consider
Yeah.
themselves to be worthy of it and more educated than these masses of illiterates or whatever. I'm kind of exaggerating a
Yeah.
little bit, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much that. That's the attitude that seems to come into play, and
Yeah.
just wouldn't we just be better off without any of this? Like in a big way,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
like
Yeah. The thing is about, and it's funny. I was just before we started talking, I was watching like I don't know exactly what the title was, but it's like How to Become a Tyrant. It's a Netflix
oh, I've seen that.
show.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched like the first two episodes earlier today, and like, yeah, it's like it's. I mean, without that, I mean, that doesn't add too much to it. It just gives little details, but like straight up, it's like all of these, you know, Stalin, Mao. It's like they're they got problems.
Well,
They're
yeah.
they're like paranoid. They're like they seize power, and then they don't know what to do with it, and they just spend all of their time trying to maintain it. That like how do you have time to like run a country properly or like think clearly if you're constantly like like trying to like get more money so that you can like pay off people to like keep you in power while also like killing other people who are like vying for your power or like challenging you and your policy. And it's just like you're playing just a different game now, and it's
Yes.
like not for anybody but yourself
Pretty
and like
much.
your cronies.
Right, and even you said they're like deranged or something. You know what I mean? It's like I forget the exact word you just used, but like basically, yeah, like and they're paranoid and all this,
Yeah,
but
they're narcissists
right,
basically.
right. But even if you wanna, and I think there's reason to give some legitimacy to that, like in the sense that like they're paranoid, but they're genuinely on like they're in danger. You know what I mean? Like people around the
Yeah,
world want to overthrow them, and they don't want to see them succeed, and they don't want to see, you know, they want to make sure that ideology is proven as like it's unsustainable and it can't work and stuff because it goes directly against you know the
yeah,
interests of the people who have power by default at this point. And but at the same time, it's like you're right. Like just even if it doesn't even matter about the individual. You know what I mean? On one hand, yeah,
hmm
it compounds because it's like on one hand, yeah, the individuals who are going to like claw their way up there, it takes a certain type of person. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you gotta be like you said, narcissist. You gotta believe that you have the answers. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
You and only you can
right,
save this country from the pitfalls of whatever thing you're fighting against arbitrarily, or making the demon in the room.
right. And even if you have even if you have good intentions and your ideas are good, the
Hmm
very fact that now on this hand, it's like just having to get seize and then hold the power that you need in order to make that happen, like to be able to rule over these people for like, even for their own benefit. it's like it prevents you from actually being able to serve their best, act in their best interest, because what takes priority is to hold the power, and not to lose it, and not to let someone infiltrate and, or undermine the philosophy of it, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and then what are you really doing? It just
Yeah.
becomes a power struggle for elites. What is the difference between that and what, you know what I mean? There are differences, but like, it's the same. That part is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And whether it be that you actually have to invade that country and like take their oil because like it's economically like beneficial for us to like do that, and if we have like people who are anti-Western in charge, then we can't really like it's going to affect everybody in a negative way, and they're dictators, so like they shouldn't be there anyway, so it's okay if we invade. We're actually doing a good thing, and we just take the oil and we'll use it for a better purpose. You know what I mean? I'm talking about obviously like,
Mhm.
we talk about dictatorships and oil, and you may think I'm
Yeah.
saying that we shouldn't do anything to Russia or whatever. I'm talking about the Middle East, but like,
I,
but like,
yeah.
and I'm not. I mean, whatever. I'm just not talking about Russia right now in this moment. Obviously,
Yeah.
just that's a whole nother crazy situation. But like, um, so there's that. You could do it for that reason, or you could turn around and be like, oh well, actually, I need to invade. Well, we can even. It's so relevant. It's like, oh, I need to go, basically, do imperialism towards
Yeah.
Ukraine, but not this time. Like back then, when it was like you're joining the Soviet Union. You know what I mean? And like, oh,
Yeah.
Georgia and blah, blah, and everybody else, you're joining. You know what I mean? It's like you don't really have a say in it. You're just joining. You know what I mean? And like. But at the same time, like, what's the difference? You're still there, at the end of the day, for the people on the ground, the random civilians that just live there who just want to, like, have decent lives, what's happening? A foreign country is coming in and replacing their government with something else with their own ideology that they as individuals aren't really, like, maybe a
Yeah.
fan of, or maybe they don't hate it, or they just, they're indifferent. They just want to have
Yeah.
whatever's going to give them stability and, you know? And I don't know. Like, if the goal of like revolutionary actions and like anti-capitalist type like movements is to eliminate that type of thing and like eliminate like the coercion and the unfair, the unjust hierarchies, like the self sustain, like the like the self like what's the word? Like it like reaffirms itself. It's like I'm in
Yeah.
power
Gotcha.
because I have the title, and I have the title because I'm the guy who got in power, and it's like so
Yeah.
I rule over you, and it's like, well, what do you? Why?
This is, and it's like most of the time too when it's a dictatorship, it's like the thing that keeps you in power is the fact that you can kill them if they say no.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what keeps that's the like basically the only thing that keeps them in power is like, oh no, I'll just kill you.
Right. And
You
yeah,
know?
and it could even be in a roundabout type situation where it's like, because that's the very thing that like people complain about. Well, justifiably, obviously, capitalism about is like, it's that's what I just said, coercion. It's like, oh, you can just quit and get another job, but it's like, well, but what if you don't get another job? And what if you get another job that actually you don't know what you're getting into until you're there. You know what I mean? So if you quit this one and you join another one, you get another one. You either it could be worse, or it could be just like the
Yeah.
same situation, or there could be whatever different aspects of it. But if you don't get one of them, you can't go to the doctor. You can't get medicine. You can't eat. You can't have a house. You can't have anywhere to live. You can't have transportation. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that is like it's not directly killing someone, but it's using violence. You know what I mean? Like I know it's like people go crazy with some of this stuff. They act like it's like if I say to you like, "Nice hat," it's like I just used violence against you. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't mean it
yeah.
like that. I mean like legitimate like hurting your chances
Livelihood
of
and
your livelihood.
survival,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
And
it's and yeah, go keep going. Sorry.
just pretty much that. Like it's just and where it begins is it doesn't begin. This is pretty much the point that I'm trying to get at.
Gotcha.
I was thinking of it as though that process, that like repeating like thing that always happens, like someone takes power that is actually not in the, he's abusing it, he's, you know, betraying
Hmm.
the ideology, you know what I mean, or whatever. That is not just, oh, it happened a lot of times. It's that is like, that's what happens. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is what
It's
does
like
happen. Always.
it's
It
like
will always happen.
if there are people to rule, there will be somebody who wants to rule over them, and if there's somebody who wants to rule over them, the people will. So most people, I think, will want somebody who acts like they know what they're doing to come in and tell them what's right. You know,
Okay.
because I mean, we already kind of have, and when we talk about like what's like human nature and what's not, we've talked about that a few times. But
Yeah.
like this inclination towards like a higher being or like somebody above us is very like common and goes all the way back. The creation of gods and all this stuff, and it's like we do have some weird draw towards perceived power and like perceived knowledge that like
Yeah.
you know. So it's like it takes a very like kind of like not like self-determined, but also like kind of like embodied person to really like want to rule themselves
Mhm.
fully,
Yeah.
you know? Because if you take on that responsibility, then like who do you have to blame when you fuck it all up?
That's
It's
true.
like at least now we can be like, yeah, well, it's not my fault really if the government sucks. It's like kind
Yeah.
of, and I'm not trying to just write it off because I think that the government needs to have if the government's going to exist, it has the responsibility to the people. But
Yeah.
like, but we kind of all do want that. We don't all want to like individually worry about, you know.
Right. Yeah. Not. You're just
So
out
it's
there on your own completely. Like you have nothing to
yeah.
fall back on. Yeah. No.
So it's really wild, and a lot of the systems that have been put into place are generally pretty good. Like I mean, like I was talking earlier today about how like just like, and this is stupid kind of, but like just like the fact that the printing press was invented.
No. I see where you're going.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like these kinds of things, like the fact that you can just like get knowledge.
Yeah.
You can just get it. You can go to the store and you can buy a book from like when America was like become like well, you get Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
You can buy it. You can buy the words that he wrote down while walking around
Yeah.
in early America.
Yeah.
And like it's like it's like we have all of this like source material to really look at stuff, but like like we talk about all the time, most of the life is most people seemingly are rather be doing something else like grocery shopping.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Just like
Grocery shopping is one thing.
doing other tasks or watching the game,
Right.
or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not downplaying it because I think that like having stuff that you like is the most important thing in your life.
Yeah. It's of course
If
we all
if you
like stuff.
prefer if you prefer not reading, that's fine. I'm not here to just judge you for that, but like
Of course.
I think that like that's why like with all these with everything all these like big like existential kind of like issues like when it comes to like government and like power, it's like I like the true solution is like really good education for as many people as possible, so that we won't look at stuff and go like, oh okay, I get it. Yeah, oh it probably was the Jews. I understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. That's a big. Yeah. That's definitely a good thing.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
need people not to think that,
Right.
so
And
that they
and
don't get the wool pulled over their eyes every day.
exactly. And just like that, like even if and okay, to go with what you just said, we need them to know. We need them not to be we need
Yeah.
them to be educated enough that they aren't going to fall into, oh, maybe it was the Jews, like you said. But
Yeah.
also, they need to be able to see that, like, saying, oh, I'm not racist or, like, anti-Semitic or anything like that. It's just that, like, I want to be with my own people. I
Yeah.
I grew up a certain way, and I just, this is how I think it should. It's like being, you know what I mean? Like, knowing that that's the
Yeah,
same
big
thing,
time.
basically. You know what I mean? Like, Just
Yeah.
because you're not like
And I
racist people don't say, or like anti-Semitic people don't say like, well, I feel weird even saying this in context,
yeah.
but it's like I hate these people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like they don't say that. Some of them do, the most extreme versions, but like they say stuff like, I don't hate them. I just would rather be with my own. I think everyone should be with their own. Or I think that, I just wouldn't want them living in my neighborhood. Or I just wouldn't want them, like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
what you say when you're being honest with your closest friends and family and stuff, that, just because you don't say it publicly doesn't mean that you're not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
racist doesn't mean like, oh, well, in public I don't say this stuff. You know what I mean?
I'm nice to my coworkers.
Exactly. I have
no
a couple
respect
friends
for
that are
them on an individual on a racial level.
or at least yeah, on a racial level. I do respect them on an individual level because they're one of the
Yeah.
good ones. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
If they were all like that, then it would be different. Well, it's like, well, that person's like that, and you like
Yeah.
them, but you're just assuming that the other ones aren't because of they're a part of their group or whatever. It's like that is literally like the definition of having like racial biases. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, but then you get into the conversations where like, then you can't talk about like color, like liberal color blindness, and
Yeah.
because like then you're not like, and I get that too, because like it's like you want there to be like room for people to be different and
Yeah.
have their differences be celebrated and not, used as a weapon against them, but
Oh,
like.
for sure.
Yeah, I hope that we can get to that place in the near future. And
Yeah.
we're moving towards it.
Yeah. I mean, overall, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, to look at the way things used to be, it was like the reason why these conversations are so like, these topics are so like contentious a lot of the time is because they're talked about fairly often now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whereas back then it was just like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I hope that we get to a place where the person who's saying that, like, nobody gets it. Like, nobody understands why they're like, wait, because of what?
yeah, right,
Wait,
right,
that's what you hate that person because of what?
right. Like as if it would.
All right, dude.
Right.
You need to go.
Right. It would be nice. It would be nice if it got to the point where someone, this is just kind of we're just talking, but it's like
Yeah.
it would be nice if it did get to the point of like where someone reacts to it in the same way that they would react to, like the average person would react to a statement like that in the same way that someone would react to someone saying like, oh yeah, I just don't want someone with like blonde hair living in my neighborhood. Like it's just like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
exactly.
like you said, like the color blindness thing, it's like. That's another thing. I mean, I guess the people mean well when they, go with that type of attitude,
Yeah.
but it's like, no. Like,
Yeah.
you can say that you want to be colorblind and you don't see color and you don't see these things and, oh, yeah, I just treat everybody the exact same and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you should not treat everyone the exact same, but oftentimes when people say that, it's kind of like a dismissal of, like, the idea that, well, for them, they don't get to pick and choose. Like, oh, I only want to be around people like that who don't judge me. It's like it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, it does happen. And
Yeah.
there are, and then you add on to that the fact that like there's, like we were talking about with like power and stuff. It's like power is used in a way that is like it more negatively affects people who are seen as like the other and stuff. You know what I mean? Like especially with cops.
Yeah, and exactly, and yeah, and that's like a conspiracy in itself too. Like the whole like, we've talked about this too. It's like just like that, pit them against each other,
Oh yeah.
and let them be distracted.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. So, I mean, God.
Yeah.
But what's the news with Ukraine and Russia right now? I haven't looked at it this week, really.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't mean to. I'm sure there's like I know there's a lot of individual things going on and whatnot, but like, not to sound insensitive, I don't mean it like this at all, but like, I don't mean this in an insensitive way at all, but basically things have just been, from what I understand, like, how would I say, like, it hasn't escalated that much since, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
I mean,
okay.
I guess it has, I mean, but, okay, let's put it this way. They invaded, as we know, they started attacking and shelling and bombing and shooting people and doing all this insane stuff, right? Basically,
Hmm.
it's just continuing like that is what I mean. I don't know how to. I don't want to
Gotcha,
make it sound
gotcha.
like I think that type of thing is like, everything's normal. No, I don't mean it like
Yeah,
that.
it's like the same. Yeah.
Right. I just mean like it's still all the same horrific stuff. But there's been nothing
It
like,
hasn't
oh my
got.
God, they did this thing that's like even
Yeah,
bigger than before. It's just the same atrocities being committed as before. Like,
yeah. Man, it's so. I did see. I didn't watch the video, but I did see like one clip that was titled like Russia bombs civilians as they attempt to flee,
yeah, and that's a
and I was
common
just like,
thing.
golly.
You,
Yeah, it's
but
just like, and for what?
it seems like a
And for
common
what?
thing from what I've seen online too. Yeah, it's just the most like I don't know, and this is what I mean. Like, yeah, it's just so insane that a person or a government can get to a point where they're doing that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like feel like no, we're right. Like they believe they're
Yeah,
right. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's the thing. It's like a different, totally different way of looking at the world. Where you're now
yes,
looking, you're looking at numbers. You're looking at
yeah,
like concepts and numbers. You're not looking at like, you're not on the ground being like. So I guarantee, like, I mean, no, I can't guarantee that by any stretch of the imagination. But like when if these like leaders like had to be on the ground, I think they would be way less down to like just start wars
well,
if they
yeah.
had to actually actively participate in them.
If they had to actually participate,
Yeah,
yeah,
if they had
not
to be down in
oh
the
you're
streets.
take a few photos and then you go in the back of the
Yeah,
armored vehicle that's like protected and blah blah blah. No, but yeah,
yeah,
they had to actually
and
just have the exact same treatment as any other soldier that they're going to send in. Yeah.
yeah,
I,
because what they do is like obviously their life is important,
yeah,
but
duh.
like other people's lives is like whatever. I mean, what
Right.
is it? I mean, like it's whatever. Like life doesn't have like inherent meaning. It's just people doing stuff. Like this is more important.
Right.
It's
And
way more important for me to have that land,
exactly.
or to like prove this point, or to like get
And
that resource, or
and
to
even to even
push
if
my agenda.
and I'm not saying that this is even what he's thinking. I think it is more like I think it's as selfish as it gets, you know what I mean? For, you know, specifically for him and for most people who do this stuff. But like uh even if you do want to be like a little charitable and turn around and say like, okay, well, once again, this is actually in the people's best interest. They just don't know it yet. Like they don't understand because they're too wrapped up in their daily lives to like understand that this is like our historic duty as Russian people. You know what I'm saying? Like they they don't though. You're like you know what I mean? Like it isn't in their benefit. It's only in their benefit if you see it as like we need power so that we can exert our will more and that'll give us a more comfortable position in geopolitics. It's like you I don't know, like we say this fairly often, but like what would happen if people just stopped and were just like, what are we doing? You know how we kind of joke
Yeah,
about that once
that's
in a
yeah,
while?
exactly.
Like if everyone just took a deep breath and was like, what's going on? Why are we
Yeah,
actually doing this, you know? Like really though, it's like now basically kind of this is what I started this like episode off with is that idea of like I've been like kind of thinking about this a little bit differently now based off that. Like I was way more willing to accept the idea of like hierarchy in the sense that like the people with the good ideas are at the top, but they have to be actually good ideas and they have to be approved by the people obviously, you know what I mean? But like with that being said, uh wait, what? I don't know what's up. But sorry, I'm just reading Twitch right now. I don't know what that means, but I don't know.
yeah,
But but anyway, like where was I going with this? Yeah, like basically the idea that like a like it just degrades. It just like it degenerates when you have that much control over other people, or like it seems like
yeah,
almost any control over other people, especially when, like I said, that the fact that you have control over them is what keeps you in power. That's it. It's just a loop that has no real justification. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like you said as long as they have a good idea, but then it's like what is a good idea? And that's like why we are. That's at the core of why we're in these positions, because you know everyone has a different idea of what the good idea is.
Yeah.
You know, I you know it's fun. It's funny.
Yeah, it's weird though, because I feel like there does have to be, there's got to be some kind of collective agreement by like the people if they're like even, uh, you know, not being dominated by someone else. It's like there has to be some kind of institutions that like dish out like what is gonna happen and what's not gonna happen, because it's people decided
Yeah.
this is not gonna happen. But it seems like obvious, and people talk about this pretty often. Like, oh, our politicians should work for us. They should serve us and they should listen to us and stuff. Like obviously, duh, that's what we pretend happens now. But
Yeah.
like, like, but it just, why can't it just be in a way that's just, well, I know why, but why would someone disagree with the idea that it should be done in a way that's just like foolproof? You know what I mean? A way that's like pretty much foolproof, where it's like you don't have the capacity to screw everybody over. It's not built in that way. It's like if you're elected, you are completely beholden to the people that you're representing. It's not like, and like, you're not above them. You're just like, it would almost be like a situation where, and this is a common thing that people believe, but like, it's almost a situation where like the person who's least interested in the role is probably best fit for it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
of
It's interesting
of representing massive amounts of people like that. Like, yeah. So
yeah, it's interesting too, like how like, like almost sometimes at like any point in the chain, you can ask the question, what are we doing, and why? And the thing is that we get so tangled up in like the abstract concepts that we've built around all these different things, and they have meaning, because because this is why we do it. And then if you go like, it's like, why do we need the resources to maintain power? Why do you need power? Because I need to rule over these people. Why do you need to rule over these people?
Right.
It's like that questioning game, and it's like,
yeah, I mean,
I think we just need smaller communities of people. Just
oh, absolutely.
I like actually like there's just more true connection and like purpose in people's lives, that, and it's like we've things have just gotten a little bit out of hand.
Oh, absolutely.
And I hope that like we get to a point where like countries just I mean, can that happen?
What, that they just cease to exist?
Kinda.
I mean, I don't see why not. It's complete. That's another thing that kind of got me going down this path of like rethinking the way, just going a little more into it, and like being less willing to accept some of the good ideas, even despite their obvious like flaws in implementation. You know what I mean? But is that like just the fact that there are people in Ukraine trying to flee, and there are certain places they can go, but certain places they can't go. Who the fuck is anyone to tell somebody else that you're just not allowed to do that? You're not allowed. You can't.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. What is that? How?
Yeah.
You're claiming that you own. What is that besides an outright like declaration that like I own your body, basically, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to move freely in the world because I said so. So you also think you own the world, System of a Down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, I was listening to that.
That was,
last night actually.
They say something like that in one of the songs.
Yeah.
But
how do you own the world?
yeah, exactly.
But, yeah. Yeah, good band.
Yeah. I was a big
Small
fan
band,
back then.
yeah. But yeah, it's really just like it's really, yeah, it's just that we we maintain these things, and because it's like we just have, we're in them now, we're in
Yeah,
them,
exactly.
and until something major happens where like we because I feel like the big change, next big change will probably be when most things become automated, and then we just have people that can't, like there's no jobs for you, so we
Right,
need to
that
figure
could
out
be.
something new, or there needs to be like a new like 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 you think even like with like I don't know, like cryptocurrency technology, stuff like that, like those kinds of like smart contracts and all of these types of things, and how those things can be implemented to, like honestly, like take the people out of the systems, because the
Okay.
people are the ones who are you know deliberately causing harm to maintain power, and if you can, and if you can,
take the people
yeah,
in
if you,
power out of those systems.
yeah, and if you could have
Of
the
power. Yeah.
systems run
Oh,
basically without like a leader. If
I
like
see what you mean.
if like
I see what you
you know what I mean. If
mean.
there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like the next, I feel like the next stage in government is not like democracy or communism. It's like a technological advancement where we've grown out of this bullshit.
yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. Like, I do think that there needs to be, because people want, like, it's not like these people in power are like, damn it. I mean, until something happens, I guess I'm burdened with this task to rule over these people and to tell them what to do and
No,
to
I
make
know,
financial
I know.
policies that benefit me. I mean, this sucks, but so like there would have to be something, and that's something that I don't have the answer to. Like, how would you, without like, and this is a question that I always, so okay, how would you make it so that people are allowed to be totally free and make up their own minds about whatever, you know what I'm saying, like there's just no like governmental control like o- over them, and in the way that we have it now.
Mhm.
How would you prevent people with like bad intentions from saying, oh my god, there's like a vacuum in like
Yeah.
power and markets, so I'm going to like take control of either take control of the government or take control of um like the like industries, you know what I mean? Like just I'm gonna, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
and the idea behind like Karl Marx would be like that it's just the people collectively do that, and that's what happened in Russia back then. And but but here's what happens: the people collectively do that. Okay, you did it. Who's in charge now? A dictator. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and it becomes
Yeah.
like, oh, but I represent the people. It's like, but do you? You know what I mean? Like, your class has now changed. You're no longer a member of the people. You're now the ruler. You know what I mean? Like how?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know, it's funny. It's funny.
And if
It's
every, yeah, like I just, they would have to dissolve like the, you know what I mean? Like there would have to be like a transitionary period, I guess. But like with, like the ideas, like it can't be like, oh, people will seize state power and then like implement their will, enforce their will, the will of the people. It's got to be like remove the ability for anybody to have state power. And then
mm.
the will of the people is all that there is. You know what I mean?
Even it's funny too. Even like using the terms like the will of the people. It's like, you know, it's is it all of the people? They all agree. Everyone signed up for this. It's like
Right. That's difficult
it's
too.
fucked up.
Yeah, but I do think that would be like, I do think that would be. I mean, what positive thing does like having countries and borders and stuff? What does that do? What is good about that? We would say
It's
that it like centralizes, like I guess you could get taxes that can fund programs and do things like, like
yeah.
set up like infrastructure and all that. But like people need it anyway. Like, and like here's the thing, those institutions exist already, right? Like
Yeah.
there's like town people who work for the town who like actually build the roads, and people who tell them who make the who do city planning and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
that can just still exist. You know what I mean? Don't get rid of that. That's okay. But just make it so that like the people who make the decisions about what to do and where to do it and like what can't be done in certain places, like it always comes back to cars, like why we have to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
zoning
Yeah.
codes that make it so that you can't build like commercial places right next to residential places, making it so that you have to basically build suburbs with roads and drive and park and big parking lots and no grass and or no like actual life or anything. It's just like concrete, big road, no pedestrian access, no public transportation. Just drive in your car that you have to pay off. You have to pay insurance for. You have to do all this. It's like there should still be like ways to make sure, I'm not saying make it so that there's no laws, period. It's nothing. You know what I mean? But it shouldn't come from like people who rule over other people. It should come from the very people that are going to live in the society. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing is, yeah, it's like is this a cyclical thing that feeds into itself, and it's like if I couldn't help but thinking about like when natural disasters happen, or like when people really lead with like compassion,
Yeah.
and like they're like, oh, there's a problem that we need to solve, and it's like a humanitarian problem. Like if we looked at our societies more like that, because I feel like what happens is like we have these systems because we've with like even this like just like currency, it's like oh no, you have to like give somebody something for them to do stuff for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what if we were all doing stuff that, like, is it possible to like just work towards the greater good for the sake of the greater good?
I think that it is, and that's what I pretty much. Yeah, I think that's the goal. That's one of the goals, of just humanity. You know what I mean? Get to a point where that is what people are doing. And
Yeah.
one thing that I read is like pretty interesting and good. Interesting and good. It I forget who said it. I think it's this guy Mikhail Bakunin or Bakunin, I guess. But like
Oh, okay.
but and I could be wrong. It could have been someone else. I don't know. But like it's the idea that like okay, like I just said with like the roads and infrastructure and stuff like that. It's like I'll use that as an example. I don't know if he specifically says this, but his idea is basically like think about authority and like having power over somebody by the means in the sense that you can like inflict violence upon them. You know what I mean? In the sense whether it be like you said like a real like leader where it's like I can kill you. You know what I mean? Or police who are like I can put you in jail and like take away your freedom. Or an employer who's like I can take away your means for survival. You know what I mean? Like what is that authority?
And
yeah, like why
threatening
not?
people.
Yeah, well,
stay in line.
Right, with the threat of like physical damage to you, basically, whether it be literally directly or in the sense of like you're not going to be able to have a roof over your head, you're not going to be able to get medicine, you're not going to be able to get food comfortably, like and but like hold on. I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yeah. So that is just authority for the sake of authority. Like, who decides that? It's the people in charge. Well, why are they in charge? It's like, well, because someone has to be in charge, so they're in charge, and then they tell you to do this stuff. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
What if we just rethink the way? What if we think about authority differently in the sense, and instead look at it like this? We need something to be done with these roads. The authority, like the city planners and like the mason people, like the whatever, like the pavers and the people who like actually like have experience in planning it and have done a good job and are like they overall are approved of in the way that they do things. A little bug flew past me. Damn.
Oh.
There's like a fly in here. What the hell? Oh my god, there's one individual fly. Okay.
Is it one of the big boys?
Yeah, it's like really big. It scared the shit out of me. Anyway, So like they would have authority over that. Someone who like like people who are in the medical profession would have authority over medicine
Yeah.
and like treatment and you know not like the not like the pharmaceutical industry and the and Congress and the president all are kind of working and like you know what I'm saying like and academics and all this all have like it's just like bureaucracy basically at that point. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I don't know. Just
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting to think if like corruption, like if we were just to like all of a sudden wipe everybody's brains, if we would go right back to exactly where we are now, you know, as far as like it's like I understand where like the need for a lot of um like because okay, what's the point of a leader, right? You kind of want somebody to turn to when like so everyone can do a job and there's one person like a director for a movie or it's like the
yeah,
person like that's you know
yeah,
has the big picture and then everyone else does their part and to make the big picture happen.
sure,
So like in a sense like you can have like the like you can have the big picture without having the like uh downside of it. Like you can have somebody with a good idea and then they go, hey, I have this good idea, and then people are like, yeah, okay, let's do that idea. And like and I'm talking about like if you want to use roads and stuff again too, it could be like I feel like we need like another like highway here because there's so much like this thing
yeah.
whatever
Or like we should build like
we need
high-speed railways.
yeah
A more
we need to be able
positive
to move
example.
stuff across the country
Yeah.
period. And then like how do you feel about like more direct democracy, just like
That's
common stuff like
that's what I'm talking about in a big way.
yeah, but this gets into this cyclical kind of conversation of like yeah, but like are people smart enough to really have like autonomy honestly and like
So here's the
make
thing.
decisions about bigger things than just what they're having for dinner.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it is like reasonable to have like people like representatives in different things. Like think about like politics and economics and like just work. What would you even call it? Like labor, I guess.
Yeah.
In like the same like they could be run in similar ways. You know what I mean? Like one of the biggest problems is the fact that we say that we live in a democracy, but like, what, what, what is that? When was the last time you voted at work? When was the last time that they asked you for your input on a company decision? Never. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, because they don't know. They don't know what they're talking about.
right. So
They don't know.
but in actuality, the people that actually do that, how many people, if how common is it? Okay, but everybody has been in a position where they realize like, when they're the one doing their job, they understand it better than like the regional director, of the company.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
does
Agreed.
can that person sit down and do your job right now? No, you and like you understand it better, So it's like people aren't. No one. There shouldn't be like a person like I am the person in charge of this. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
well, everybody should be in charge of. People should be in charge of little things, but only based off like only. But their authority should begin and end with, I'm in charge of doing this.
Mhm.
Like I designed this project for whatever this railway, but with the input of like a bunch of people, and like we like did like whatever we had input and like used direct democracy stuff to like figure out our planning process and like things like that. But and yeah, it's complicated. I'm not saying it's like the easiest thing in the world or like, oh, it's so cut and dry, like everyone will just make the right choice all the time. You know what I mean? But without a lot of the concerns that we have today with the current systems, I feel like there would be a lot less divisiveness. But you would just have to like right now, like, okay, why do most people in America, what are they mostly split about? Just political, partisan issues. You know what I mean? Like,
And almost like seemingly like just like rhetoric stuff that's been happening, like just
yes,
literally like social like interactions is like the most divisive
right.
thing. Like,
Most
you
of the
know,
stuff, it's not like you see people. It's not like you see like,
people don't even think about fucking, yeah,
right. You don't see people
actual
online.
policy.
Yeah, when you see these videos online of people like getting into arguments and like freaking out and stuff like that, what are they freaking out about? Are they talking about the difference between? Are they talking about how the proletariat should seize power, whether it should be a transitionary period of state control with a collective, representative
Mhm.
government, or should it be, the revolutionary leader? No, no one's talking about that. Are they talking about, okay, when we do start having smaller community-based, like, self-governing bodies, how are we going to, what systems are we going to use to be connected to, like, international, or whatever, ideally in a perfect world, just like long distance, like, trade. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're not. They're not. They're saying, let's go, Brandon. And they're
yeah,
saying, Trump's a Nazi. And they're
yeah,
saying, you're a racist and you're a whatever, you're a snowflake and stuff. It's
yeah,
just that. Like, that's what it is. Like, you're an
yeah,
Antifa, you know.
yeah. Because everyone need like they just need a bad guy, and there's not like the thing is, ugh, yeah, man, it's frustrating too because it's like it's difficult. Like it's a difficult spot to get out of. It's like we have like built like we accidentally walled ourselves in without building the door,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know, and now we're all just in this box, just being like we have all these concepts and ideas, and like the news keeps telling us stuff that we need to worry about, and like the politicians keep like pushing stuff, and like, and it's oh, oh. And also like another thing too I was gonna say before is like I don't think that like I think that like it's very natural to do work of, or things need to happen,
Yeah.
generally, but it's like the labor that you provide needs to sustain you, like
Like,
your life,
spiritually
like
or, like, materially?
both,
Yeah. No, yeah,
because like
exactly.
okay,
I mean, that's, yeah.
because I mean I think about the idea of a world without currency, and like it's fun to like fantasize about like, oh, it'd be cool if everyone just like got along and like did stuff because they liked it,
Yeah. Well,
you know
yeah.
you know what I mean, really, like that would be great,
Yeah.
but like but then like even that, like it's like that's not it's impossible because we have so many people who don't want that, who their maybe even their idea of fun is gaining power over other people, and
Right.
you know what I mean,
That,
so it's like
yeah. That's where,
at
like,
the
sorry, go ahead.
at
Go
the
ahead.
just at the bare minimum, it's like at the bare minimum, the change that needs to happen is that if you work, it shouldn't be the only thing that you do.
Right.
First off, 8 hours a day of sitting at a desk is just insane, and like
Right.
those kind of types of jobs, it's insane. That's like, oh no, like 8 hours like is the standard, so you'll come in and for work 8 hours and still stay here at this desk, and for eight
Yeah.
hours. You'll answer however many emails you do. Maybe none today. Who knows? You might just sit there and look at Reddit all day. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But you have to be here for 8 hours.
Right.
You know, like, or like the minimum wage. Obviously, it's the fact that like if you make a like medium like income, or like the average income, the fact that like you can't like afford housing
Right.
with that in
Right.
any real way unless you save up for a million years, and like rent is like just like they got it just as high as they can, where like you can afford it, you
Right.
just can, you got it,
Right. Yep.
you know,
No, exactly.
like it's like, so like that is insane and is purely exploitative,
A hundred
and it's
percent.
like those things need to be very much done. That they just, it's like, hey, listen, right, you see me as a means of production, and I see me as me, a
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
needs to live a life,
Exactly.
right? So can we maybe you give me the ability to live a life, and I give you a couple emails a day,
Right. And don't get me wrong.
or
Well,
I'll cook your food for you. It's
well,
fine.
here's the thing. It shouldn't even be like it goes beyond that. It's like, and I agree with every single thing you just said, but it goes beyond that. It's like, it shouldn't even be like, okay, you give me what I need to live, and I'll give you, some services, whatever. Why does that person have the right to have that from you? What do you like? You know what I mean? Like, what is that? I mean, I
Hmm.
understand. It's basically just because we over history developed this. We just came to the conclusion that it's like, yes, it makes sense that like stuff that is used to produce more stuff for the masses and by done the work is done by the masses. It's just owned by the guy who bought the materials to get it done. That's it.
Yeah.
He just
Hmm.
owns it now. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? I mean, I get it. I get how that happened, but like at this point, we should be beyond that. You know what I mean? Like, how is that even accepted by anybody? I mean,
Yeah.
how is it accepted by anybody? Because the very people who own that stuff pay a lot of money to make sure that the news and policy in in the government is po- is you know keeping it going, basically. Like, they
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
perpetuate it. Like.
Yeah. And like, but also too, like it's like because as of right now, it's like that we're really stuck with like two options. It's like either um, production is state run or privately run,
Okay.
right? I mean, that's
Well,
like the only
the other idea would be that it's like basically like publicly run, but like there wouldn't be a concept of like I am starting a. It wouldn't be the same idea of like I'm starting a corporation. I am registered as a corporation. Here is my. Like it would
yeah.
just be like. And there would be no incentive to just make things just for the sake of like, oh, this is a business because we're gonna make money off this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, I don't, and believe me, this isn't something that I have
Yeah.
like the deepest understanding about. That I have like concrete, conclusions that I've reached or anything like that. I'm just kind of talking about it because it's like, I don't know. It's just interesting, and it's
Yeah.
definitely something that I do think is important. But like just that, like how there shouldn't be structures in place to like, you know what I mean? Like is like if someone's building something and it's you don't want it to be there, the scaffolding shouldn't exist to be able to let them build it. You know what I mean? So just bring
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing down and make it so that there's no way for someone to be like, "Oh, actually, we're a company that's like publicly traded, so we're beholden to our shareholders, and we actually have bank accounts offshores, and blah blah, blah, and we avoid
Yeah.
taxes by doing this and blah." Like that shouldn't even
Yeah.
be an option. Like it shouldn't be set up that way in the first place. Like
Agree. Agree. But so the thing is that yeah, like we said, like the people in power take advantage of the same things that other people take advantage of. It's like there's this big thing of like you said it perfectly. Like people like generally don't like we because the system is this is it because the way that things are set up right now are so unfair. Like realistically, like just working a job 40 hours a week is not desirable, no matter
no,
what job it is,
40
even if
hours
it's something that
minimum.
you
Yeah,
enjoy doing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, you don't enjoy. You're not going to enjoy it
And
every
it's
single day.
inefficient
That's for
too.
damn
It's
sure.
not you're not doing 40 hours of work every single week when you're doing that.
Yeah, and it's just a 40. It's a 40-hour time suck.
Yep.
But
Definitely.
then so then that's why so many people are like, okay, how do I get around it? Let me just okay, so I'm going to set up a company that's like I think I told you about the Amazon thing where like basically you drop ship
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So you find loopholes like that like now you're just like making your money just by exploiting loopholes in systems
Yeah.
that and then perpetuating those when you have wealth and now you're like, oh, I have this power to push stuff around now a little bit and I will
Yep.
and like maybe I'll like get a little more power because now I have power to get more power with.
Yep.
And then I think next thing you know, you're Jeff Bezos, just smiling and looking a little dead inside.
Yeah. And yeah, like yeah, exactly. And the same thing applies to like situations like, oh well, I work 40, 50 hours a week, and I I don't, so what am I going to do though? Like, what's the smart thing to do? I got to invest. So I'm going to invest in some real estate. So I'm going to buy some properties, hire
Exactly. This is
people
all what
to
I'm saying.
do work
Yeah.
to them so that so it raises the value of it. And then I'll let people rent it from me. And I'm not going to live
Hmm.
there. I'm not going to do anything positive for society. I'm literally just going to say, like, doing that is the exact same thing as just being like, I don't know. It's like, imagine a bunch of people are like, whatever. Someone like, there's a meal on a table, right? And there's like, a big bowl of soup, big pot of soup, whatever.
Okay.
And then everybody's coming to the table, and they're like, oh, we're about to eat. And then just one guy just goes in and is just like, haha, I got it, I got it. You guys all have to give me money, and I'll measure how much of the soup I'm gonna give you, and then you only get it based off the amount of money. And like, even that isn't even as bad, because at least with that, it's like it's beyond that, because at least with that it's like you're buying the thing that's going to nourish you. With the with the house thing, the renting thing, it would be more like, haha, the kitchen's mine now. You're not allowed to eat ever again unless you continuously pay me on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like even though it's like,
Yeah.
well, what if I just use the kitchen and I cook it for myself? It's like, no, no, no. I told you I own it now. And here's a piece of
Yeah.
paper that says I do. So you have to pay me every
Yeah.
single time. Like,
Yeah.
and actually, it
The
is even
bank said.
beyond that. It is even beyond that, because it's not even like it's like you can come to the kitchen and you have to pay me every time. It's like, no, you still have to cook it yourself, but you have to pay me to
Yeah.
even use the stuff. And if any of it
Yeah.
breaks, you have to buy more. You have to buy new ones for yourself. You know what I mean? You basically have to
Exactly.
build me a kitchen, pay for it, and use it to get your own food, but it's mine, and you have to, like, you know what I'm saying? And it
Yeah.
quite
And then
literally is that, because there's
and
kitchens in
yeah.
apartments.
Oh God. Yeah. And then what I mean, then what happens is like you have like soup shortages that are created by like purposeful. What is it called? It's like
Oh, like,
um, when you like purposely manipulate the market to. There's
yeah,
a word
like,
that I
like,
can't. That's not coming to mind.
it's basically like a
You create
like
it
a
like
scarcity, but it's like fake, like a fake
scarcity.
scarcity.
Yes,
Yeah.
scarcity is the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a synonym of the word fake. Is
Yeah, yeah,
involved
yeah.
in it as well.
Oh, okay. A false scarcity or something? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Um,
It's like a manufactured scarcity.
yes,
You know what I mean? Like,
that's
basically.
that's exactly what I'm trying to say, right? So
Okay.
now there's like, oh, we're running really low on soup, guys.
Yeah.
The price is going up. Price is going up on soup because we can't get the enough ingredients.
Yeah.
So, and then you have a whole house full of soup, and it's just sitting there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm
Because you
just
have-
laughing
you
because the
got
way you
plenty
said
of
that was so funny.
ingredients.
But, like, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Like,
You have plenty of ingredients.
yeah. And everybody can
Yeah.
have it, but they're just like, well, guys, you got to understand, like, I would make more money if I just didn't let you have it right now. So I'm just not gonna. But, like, you must understand, like, this is gonna
It does
benefit
nothing
me
for
in the
me to just
long
give
run.
it to you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
exactly. And then they're
Yeah.
like,
So
yeah,
I'd
but
rather just.
we can't get it otherwise, and you have it right there. It's like,
No, I don't.
well, yeah, no, it's like, no, yeah, I do, but but that you said it yourself. I have it. I have it, not you. I have
Yeah.
it. Why would I give it to you?
Yeah.
It's like, not even give
You
it.
gotta
It's
pay
like,
me.
why would I give it to you for the same price that I used to cost when the situation is such right now where as long as I just suspend all morality, I can make more money if I just
Yeah.
harm you. So I will do that naturally
Yeah.
because that's what I'm supposed to do. What are you, insane for thinking that I shouldn't? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like the idea of
Yeah.
like, oh man, the prices are going up, cost of living going up, everybody's raising rent. It's like, well, you got to raise rent. I mean, you got to raise rent. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that's the going rate. Why would you not? It's like, so basically, it's like you're irresponsible and stupid if you don't sell your soul for profit. Basically, like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. It's so. Oh man, that's the thing. And we've talked about this too. Like it's like. The. It's so silly, man. But it's like, what are you supposed to do about it, really? Because like, it's like if people will spend the money, then that's how much it costs. That's how much it costs.
Right. Well, that's
If I say it costs this much, and if people give it to me,
no, I
okay.
get that, but
You
That's
know.
why that person shouldn't have the authority to decide what it costs. You know what I mean? Because of course they're
Hmm.
going to do that. It's like it's that's the way it's built. Like, of course they're going to charge you exactly how much you can afford, but you're not going to have anything left over at the end of it. You know what I mean? All things considered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why would they not do that? They shouldn't have
Yeah.
the ability to do that. You know what I mean? It should just be like, okay, you don't own this. Who lives here? Okay, you live here, and you just like basically you live there. But it's not like you just like get to decide afterwards. Like, this is a little bit more extreme, but like I don't know. It's like basically I don't know. It kind of brings into it brings up the question of like, what is property? In a lot of
Hmm.
ways, it's just theft. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
just saying this is mine now, and I will now, if you want to use it. Especially with something like homes. It's not. I'm not saying like, oh, this hat should be, my shirt off my back, but I'm just saying like, with like property, like housing. Like
Yeah.
it's just
But it's interesting when you think about it, like even from like a really like if you go like first principles on like where real estate is. It's like you picture like you know tribal communities, and it's like one person has like their little hut set up in this little nice little treat area,
yeah,
and then someone comes and they're like, I want to put my hut there, and then the guy's like, no, this is where it is for me. I've already put it here. I'm already here.
yeah,
And then he takes out a pointy stick and he's like,
yeah. I understand. I get that, and that's where I'm.
and then he has the cool spot, and then someone else comes later and he's like, that's a cool spot for a hut. I want to put my hut there.
Yeah,
And then they're like, it's mine. And then they both have pointy sticks now, and then you know what I mean. And it's
I
like
definitely do.
then eventually someone's like, okay, here I'm gonna write down that it's yours. You have it. So if anyone comes here, they don't have to. You don't have to stab each other. You can just show them the paper that this is yours, and then it just gets exploited after that.
Yeah, but even
Because I
with
feel like
that
that there is like there's something to be said about that being a good thing, like being like because like if you think about like what it would look like if all of a sudden we were like, oh yeah, like real estate is insane, so it's just not a thing anymore. Like people would, I don't want people just coming into my house and being like, actually can live here now too.
right,
Or
but
like it's like
it could just be like, okay, you live here, you have the right to live there now. But like why does that have to be tied to a mortgage and like, you know what I mean? Like,
hmm
why does that have to be tied to like, well, you can literally just like, you own it, so like, if you don't even have to live there, you can just buy it and buy another and buy another and buy another, and
yeah
then these people will never own it because you already got there first. You already stole the
yeah
soup bowl and said, nope, it's mine now, and
yeah
like now you're like, they just have to pay you now because you already got there, and now you just profit from it because you already own it. Like, why? Like, it when in reality, like, it shouldn't even be like seen that way. Where in reality, it's like it should just be like, okay, no one lives here. You want to live here? Okay, you live here, or like you whatever. And there
yeah
could be like an exchange that goes on. Whatever. We live in a world with money, so like, sure, it costs money or something like that. You pay like property taxes and whatever. But like, it's just like, I don't know. And like,
yeah.
whatever. There could be
The
some
other
kind of
thing, the other
credit for like any thing you do to it, like to make it nicer. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't necessarily. It would be like kind of like a exchange, like whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm literally thinking of this off the top of my head, but like, you say you get the house, right? And it's not the
Mhm.
nicest place in the world. And you work a lot of hours, you get paid, and you're able to put money into the house to make it nicer and, renovate some stuff. All right, well then when you leave, it's like, well, what kind of investment was that? Why would anyone improve their situation? It's like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, yeah, actually, I don't know. How would you resolve that? Like, like,
Yeah, it's hard.
there could be like
This
a
is
credit for it or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
or
But
like,
like,
but like, how do you like? It's like another thing too is like people love like novelty and stuff like that as well. Like it's kind of what you're saying, and like people want to have like the cool looking house and the nicer house that uses maybe more expensive materials that like, and it's
yeah,
So it's like if you go to like pure like collective, like real like uh national unity of like, oh yeah, no, we all like we're all down to have like a little bit less so everyone gets some. We all have
Yeah.
like our like basic home
Well, yeah.
that we get, and we have our like clothing that we have.
Yeah.
It's like that that's the way it could work.
Yeah, true.
But most people don't want that at all, because like, and that's the big push and pull with capitalism and communism at its like um like kind of like individualism versus collectivism. It's like,
Yeah.
how important is it to like represent who you are by the things that you have? Is
Yeah, that's true.
is that a capitalist mentality, or is capitalism coming in to be like, here's a way to do the thing that you want to do? Because like you
Yeah.
hear about stories in communist countries where people are like, oh wow, as soon as I was aware that there were other options, I wanted them.
I get that. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's rough. It's like, because I think that there needs to be we need to have really good like public housing options.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yes. Hold
and
on.
and we need to
I'm sorry.
okay.
I don't mean to interrupt. I have to pee really, really bad. Do you
Yeah,
want
take a
to?
break.
Okay. Yeah. Just hold that thought, because I like this conversation. 'Cause,
All right.
yeah.
BRB.
All right. Yep. Be right back in a couple minutes. All right. And we're back.
Alrighty. So to finish the thought, basically, I feel like, the best possible option is to have a combination of the two working, like the same way that like in an ideal reality, like the two-party system would be the best option, kind of. You have a conservative party and a liberal party, and they battle it out for real, and they come up with the best idea. They go, this person's pulling, wants to go too far into the future. We're not ready for that yet. The conservative wants to stay too far in the past, and then they meet in the middle. And right, that idea is good. I think it's like, it's like
I don't know. I feel like it
at its
just.
core, I don't think it works.
Yeah,
Currently,
but
in
even
the way that it's been
even at its core, it's like
handled.
it kind of just prevents like anything from happening, because there's just opposing sides that are just gonna disagree, and they both have equal influence, and they're just like, like
Mhm.
whatever. In America, Democrats just want to do, nonsensical, like slight tweaks to neoliberalism, I guess, and just like,
Yeah.
in theory make it a little more equal, but like in reality, like I don't know, it's very debatable. But like,
Yeah.
and Republicans just want to let things run wild, I guess. I don't know, and just like allow businesses to just rule the world, I guess. In practice, but like, but Democrats
Yeah.
kind of just do that too. I mean, I don't know, and it ends up just in the middle somewhere, like you said, where it's just like the companies still rule the world, and they pretty much get what they want because they're contributing to both sides. And well, that's a whole nother issue with money going into politics. But like, yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. I don't know. Like, I feel like if there wasn't that influence, or not even the influence, more so just like the system of power that like makes it so that like the two parties represent the people, and they make decisions based off like, they kind of keep each other in check a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
I
So
don't
the way
know.
that I'm looking at it, just to make it more clear, maybe,
Yeah.
is like basically like traditionalism, like versus like
Like
uh
progressive type.
progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, because like not every progressive thought is going to be good in practice, or like
Sure.
is
Yeah.
actually reasonable, or like, it's like, and like
Yeah.
only being traditional and sticking to tradition at even to a fault, is not good.
Yeah.
But having those two things temper each other, I think, I really feel like that could be a good idea.
Yeah,
Like
but
it's like one of those things that seemed like a good idea at the time, but now what we got is like the gears just locked up.
yeah.
They're both pulling opposite ways, and they're like, I guess we just
Okay.
are. You
I
know,
see what you mean, but yeah,
it,
yeah, for sure. So
it would need to be like good faith. You know, it would need to be like good faith where they argue truly about topics that are
right, and even with that being said, though, it's like I find it very like I think that having a system like that makes it so that people are like, it's like you choose a side basically for the most part. And
yeah.
if they have candidates that represent the party, then they're representing the party's plan, agenda, whatever. Like, like rather than okay, so what if someone wants to have, they want to have whatever. Like, okay, they want to become like energy sustainable and they don't want to use fossil fuels or something like that. But they
Hmm.
also want to uh I don't know, what's like I'm finding it like what's a good thing that Republicans believe in? I don't know, like
Well, if you for something like that, right? I feel like the argument would be, well, fossil fuels already provide so many jobs for people, and we already have like these systems set up that like, and if we just like the same thing with like with like
yeah,
going to like socialist like healthcare system, it's like
right.
we have all these systems set up already, so like, you know,
Yeah, okay, that's a good example. Yeah, so it's more like okay, so what if someone is like I want to continue using fossil fuels because I just think it's the most responsible thing that we could do right now. Okay, maybe we could transition down the line, but like right now, it's not an option. You know what I mean? I just don't
yeah,
see it. I don't think we could do it quick enough. Why does that person have to then be in like a group? He has to align with a party that also wants to like burn books and like, arrest people for getting an abortion or something, or like, you know what I mean? Or
agree,
arrest people
agree.
for being transgender or something, or arrest parent or like hold parents responsible
Yeah.
for that if their kid is that way. Like
It's like like the thing is the main point is they would have to work together.
right,
You
but
know what I mean? And currently they actively it's like it's two teams that are like you're wrong, no you're wrong.
yeah,
Okay,
and
all
they're
right.
and like we said in the beginning, like their interest has changed. They're no longer, and for a long time obviously have not been members of the working class. In America, I mean, it's like pretty much they never were. I mean,
Mhm.
and they obviously, and they like, but instead, like, why not just have it be just like more, like you said, a more like direct democracy where like on an individual basis things are like considered. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
there can be like obviously there would be like collective action, so there would be groups that have like a general agenda and stuff like that, but like not so much like but not in a sense where it's like, in America like we live in a world in a country where like no one is like excited about a candidate and they're like, "Oh, I really love this person and I just want to vote for them." You know what I mean? I mean, there are people like that come around. There's
yeah.
Trump who like people went
And
crazy over
Bernie.
and do go crazy, and then there's like Bernie, exactly. Like, but like the people who actually end up getting elected, it's like for most people just feel like, okay, which is I'll vote for the one that's the least bad. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and
The
even
thing too,
yeah, go ahead.
the thing too though about direct democracy that's worth mentioning is like people don't want to do stuff
Right. Okay.
a lot. Like if I mean like I was thinking about it, like would I want to like really vote on a bunch of stuff? Like because like
Well,
when I was
yeah.
thinking about democracy before, I was like, I think it would be kind of cool if it was like for everything, like we collectively decide how we want things to go.
Uh huh.
But like who wants to like have to like every Wednesday you have to like log on to your thing and like go through all the different things and check yes or no for different stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it could even be something like where it's like, okay, you live in a town, right, or a city, or
hmm
a neighborhood within a city, or whatever it may be. We'll just say a town, just to make it easy. But this could apply to like any of those things that I just mentioned, or whatever. But
okay,
and the you basically have like a group of people that like represents you, that are like chosen by the people, elected, what through like a real fair and normal democratic process, that where they don't have authority though. They have authority in this in like the in only in what you have tasked them with. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's it. Like that is just simply it. If they betray the will of the people who elected them, they're gone. End of story. Like there's just no question about it. There's no
But see
like
that there would need to be something above it then that would keep that in check.
well, I
And
mean,
that's where I'm talking. That's where I'm talking about, like crypto technology and stuff like that. I feel it could be really interesting. Like it's like think about this. Think about this. Think about this. Right? There's like you know a little bit about smart contract stuff.
yeah, what? I guess I think so. I mean, it's just like something that's like stored on the blockchain, right? Like to validate it.
Yeah, but yeah, basically you could like make a contract with somebody and have it be uh um like basic basically legally bound without it being to going through the legal system.
Okay.
You know, you can make like a real like you know like
Yeah, it's like recognized
the way
as
I'm
legitimate. Yeah.
yeah, the way I'm imagining it is like, you know, politicians when they get voted in, they like sign a contract basically, and if they fail to meet the what the contract says they'll meet, then like it like voids
To be honest, I kind of
they're
like
like
that.
card key to get into the
Well,
the Senate building or whatever, you know, and then they're just out.
I
So, does you know what I mean? Something
yeah,
like
there's
that.
definitely something to that. Yeah, no, because I mean, you know, but that doesn't even have to be done through like some kind of crypto thing. Like, you know, I mean, it could just be. But you know, I guess
Well,
yeah,
I'm
because
trying
then
to. The way I'm thinking about it is to like remove the most corruption from it is to put more kind of technology into it sometimes.
right. But yeah, so I mean, I guess it could apply. But even just to no, and sure, I'm not even like discrediting that at all. I'm just saying like, even just in a more like conventional way, like yeah, if everything could be done in that way, like, well, you know, most things could be done in that way where it is like that, and even down to like the people who, yeah, like basically people just enter contracts and like are held to them, you know,
Yeah.
but the thing is not by capital owners who, you know, like most contracts are like business negotiations or like like an employment situation, you know what I mean? What you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like instead, it should just be like recognized as just this is the way that we operate in our society. Like you are gonna work at this steel mill or something, whatever. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna work here. Here is like your job, basically. Like you know, like, and it would be like determined by like people researching and looking into and like you know giving feedback and all this about like what is the most effective way of operating this, not what yields the most profit, what's going to give us the best like you know way of like getting the most labor out of the employees, but like being able to pay them just enough that they can like continue doing the work and surviving, but like not enough to like really get them like you know, to cut it to
Yeah.
our bottom line. You know what I mean? We need to maintain that at all costs. You know what I mean? Like, just instead,
Mm-hmm.
like, and yeah, like, but like, with the freedom to like bargain with it. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't. It should. If someone wants to be like someone who works like not whatever. You know, if someone wants to work 70 hours a week because they love it or something like that. Okay, you know, sure. But like it shouldn't be a type of situation where it's like, all right, well, you have to work, you know, we're only hiring part-time right now, so we're going to hire you to work 36 hours a week so that you don't get benefits and you know, it would be
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
a situation where like that stuff is removed from it. There wouldn't be like a like a powering like a ruling part of it. Like it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like you are a person who works at the steel mill. It is owned by whatever company, manufacturing company or whatever, and we have investors from here and here, and they're you know we have a board of directors and we have our CEO and we have it would just be like we do this because we have to produce products to like improve people's lives. You know what I mean? Like we need it to make like whatever
Yeah.
cookware and you know stuff for buildings. You know what I mean? Like, not
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying?
But you
And
have though too, like it's funny, like you like how I want to think of a way where we can limit that as well, like because I feel like there's some stuff that should be doesn't need to be as much choice as there is for.
like what?
Like we don't need like hundreds of cookware companies. I don't feel
Oh,
like
I agree with that. There should just
it's just
be if you want to make another one, if they're already like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, because I have a point about that. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure. You go because
Okay.
I'm not sure. I just wanted to mention that because it's interesting to me.
So this is something that's been like, something that's like I find hard to like have an answer for. It's like, so well but I think it's becoming a little bit more clear now. It's like I used to think of it as like, yeah, it would make sense to have it like be set up. Like, why does there need to be more than one of these things? Like, if you have something that's functional, it's good. Like there's no point in like, and I don't mean like, what's the point? I shouldn't say it that way. I mean like, let's just not get crazy with it, where it's just like people just being like, oh, I can beat out the competition by like lowering my production. I could just pay the people a little less, or I could just set up I could set up the mill or the factory or whatever in a country where they have laws that make it so that I don't actually have to pay the people as much, and things like that. When in actuality, like where instead it could just be like we want to make our own because like we want it this way. We just want it this way, and we're gonna just like start it up and like do it. And it's like we want something that's like closer to where we live, so that like we don't have to like depend on whatever. Oh, like instead of having just like, oh, the steel mill that makes the steel stuff is in whatever Washington State. It's like, okay, well if you live in Florida or something, it's like, all right, it's far away. There might be issues. It's like, okay, well what if they want to just make their own over there? Okay, cool, do it. But like that doesn't mean like. But there would be a lot of other things that get taken into account. Like you can't have it just be like, well, the dollar speaks, so if you have the means to do it, then you should do it. It should be determined based off the needs and like the ability to do it and the needs of people to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and
You
like
go to get your business license and you're like, yeah, I want to open like a cookware company, and they're like, we have like 35 cookware companies already. I think we're good. Maybe you have another idea.
right, and it would be
something else.
but that decision would be made not by like the government. It would be made by like just
algorithms.
People. It would well, I guess in a way, maybe no, but like there people. It would be like research driven. You know what I mean? It would be like this is bloating the. There's no need for it. You know what I mean? Like, and there would be no incentive. There would be no incentive to do it like in that way because there would be no like profit motive. You know what I mean? Like, it would be done out of like necessity. But like not out of like the necessity through when I say that it kind of comes off like I mean like people are like kind of desperate for it, so they need it, so it's like, all right, fine, we'll let you do it. More like, why would a group of people say, yeah, I want there to be a like steel plant or whatever steel place, like a steel mill in this area. We should do that. We should start that up. Why would they do that when they have no need for those things? You know what I mean? Like, and they don't have like there would be no motive. It would just be like they would instead say like, oh well, instead we have like whatever.
Yeah.
We have access to like this resource, or like we have a lot of land. Like let's make like more farmland or something. You know what I mean? Like things like that, or like.
Well, the good thing about having a lot of companies making the same thing is that it keeps the prices as low as possible usually.
Yeah, but that's
Unless
only
there's-
because of competition like that. It shouldn't be like that. It should just, and the company who makes the cookware shouldn't. I don't mean it in a sense where it's like, well, I make the cookware and I'm able to provide it for everybody, so no one should compete with me. I mean it like there wouldn't be a need for it. It's like the people who make it are just the people who own the company would be the people that work at the factory and stuff like that. Like the people who just do all the work and do everything and like plan out the logistics or whatever it may be if they do it through themselves or whatever. Like the people who do the work would own the company. And it's just you would just the price would be based off of like what is reasonable. Like there would be
I
nothing to really, really, really gain from having so much more money than other people. You know what I mean? Like right now, it's like, oh well, you
There already isn't
right now.
much more to gain from having so much money.
Well, in like a, what do you mean?
Like it's like really.
I mean, yeah, really, it's all
But
nonsensical stuff.
people are like constantly and like, and I wonder honestly if this is like generational or what. But that people are always in like, what is it called, like starvation mode basically, or like they're like gathering extra, like, it's like survival.
Yeah.
It's like winter's coming and we need to have a stockpile of goods, but they're just always in that mindset, just like stockpiling shit because they're like scarcity mindset, I think it's called. But and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's very very interesting because if you once you there's many people who are very wealthy then they will never be able to spend all of that money.
Right. Right.
And then they just have it and then they die and there's just money sitting around.
Yeah. So there would.
And
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, there would be things like that taken into account too, where it's like people would be able to decide, like, it would be like a two-way street. Like people would be able to decide, like, this is overpriced. We're not doing it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there would be more of like a solidarity between people. Like, yeah, sure, because I mean, just because they're workers doesn't mean that they can't turn around and be like, I know it's like not the right thing to do, and I know it's like, I'm not going to gain, like, I can't use my money to lobby a governing body and be able to make more money so that I can get more and more and more. Like, it wouldn't be like that. But yeah, sure, there could be people who are just like, why shouldn't we have at least some more luxuries or something like that? And they're just like, listen, we can charge this much, and I bet we can get away with it. You know what I mean? It would be like a two-way street. Like you could just, people would have the means to just be like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, especially with things like, and then especially for like necessities, like if you're talking about like food and stuff like that, like nowadays, like people are like, oh well, the grocery stores can just raise the prices of food because like COVID hit hard, people weren't really using, they got to make up for the losses that they made, even though they didn't really lose anything. It's like,
Yeah.
but they could just get away with it. Why not just raise the prices? It's like, no, you just wouldn't be able to do that because like there would just be like there would be like data available, and it would just be like transparent and reasonable, like, and people would just be like informed about, like, you know what I mean? The decisions would be made based off of availability, like
Yeah.
the needs of people and the ability to produce it. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not just saying you would just be sustenance, barely getting by type stuff. I'm talking like then you can take the rest of your resources and use them to advance society and try to
Yeah.
automate things and try to improve technologies rather than try to buy out smaller companies that have competing technologies, and then you can buy them out so that you can like crush their project or learn or like take their like information like what do you call it what is the thing IP, what is it?
Oh.
Intellectual property, yeah. Like
There you go.
take their intellectual property, I don't know, just drew a blank on that, and they you know what I mean, and then use it for your own benefit to like earn more money, like that.
Yeah.
It people say like, oh, competition like breeds innovation, but it like, sure, in a way, yeah, true, but like it also like stifles it in a lot of ways too, you know.
Yeah. I completely. It's like it stifles like the thing is it's like is innovation like put in some bells and whistles on something that's perfectly functional.
That's another part of it.
Because like or is innovation like really pushing like the bounds of society and like culture and
Exactly.
technology,
Yep,
because
yep.
like if you just want to like make it but make it like have like a red handle.
Yeah, or have two front-facing cameras. Oh my god. Or
Yeah.
have like
Revolution.
yeah, it's thinner. Wow.
Yeah.
Like like yeah.
So
like,
it's like the actual like progression technologically is like usually done like in like a lab kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
under like a grant from a school,
Yes, exactly.
and then some company is like, oh, they just figured out that you can make this really really small microchip and have a lot of storage, let's put that in the phone.
Yeah, there's so many things that were like the technologies were developed by like NASA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it kind of makes sense that like a publicly funded scientific research organization and engineering, you know, thing would be able to come up with this stuff when their only goal is to discover things, you know what I mean? Like basically like develop things, discover things, like create ways to like do things that are seemingly impossible, you know what I mean? And then like I don't know, I forget some of the examples, but like like they had like I don't know, if you look it up, there's a whole bunch of things we know as like products that are like actually created by them, but like
yeah,
and they still did it even though they knew that they weren't going to the random guy who was testing the materials wasn't gonna get a patent and make $100 billion, you know what I mean? But he still did it, and
yeah,
they still did that, and it was not profitable to invest in it or whatever, and all this like that's what innovation comes from, not like oh well technically you want to know what capitalism breeds as far as innovation. Yeah, it's very innovative to make it illegal, basically to make it so that there are no laws that to make it so that the laws go in your favor because you want to create phones that have no like parts that you can replace or like laptops that you can't like upgrade
yeah.
and like things like that. And
It
fighting
makes, like,
against
new
laws that want to make it so that it's
Yes.
like right to repair, like you know what I mean? Like let's fight that. I don't want you to have the right to repair it because I already planned it out. This thing's going to be obsolete in like 3 or 4 years, so like then you're going to have to buy a new one. And if you could upgrade it or repair it or modify it, that would hurt our margin. So like we
Yeah.
need to make sure that we don't make the best product because the best product would last too long and then we can't keep making money. That's what it does. You know what I mean? Like
That's capitalism. Like really, it's like it's just coming up with new ways to like get one over on people a little bit and make a couple extra bucks. Like that's that's the innovation that it breeds.
it's all about just what else could we get away with? That's it.
Yeah, silly. It's childish, honestly, at this point.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, like you think about these meetings, right? Like there's like a bunch of people sitting around a table talking about how to like get the profits up and like whatever the fuck. They're just like, what if we like
Yeah. What if we laid off like 350 people and then just like hired like we started like a program where we help like it's like a first step program
Oh my
where we allow
God.
people to come in and we'll market it like we're really doing them a favor by bringing in people and like getting their foot in the door in the tech industry and blah blah blah. But actually all we did was lay off a bunch of people that were receiving benefits and getting more money, and now we can hire these people and we'll treat it like we're doing them a favor, but they'll still do the same work. It's just that we don't have to pay them. We don't have to like commit to their old contracts and pay them, and then they're out of the system for this and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And younger people are more willing to accept that stuff for like, they're willing to accept something that's like low pay and like doesn't have really benefits and stuff. So like,
especially when everyone's telling them like, oh, you got to get your foot in the door somehow.
Yep, exactly. And they're in debt from college and from all this other stuff. So like, they need something. So yeah, this is brilliant. And then like that is what a good business decision is. Not like how can we make this product better? How can we be more efficient in terms of like,
time management.
Yeah, like, and if they do look into
how can we get these people home to their families
Right.
and their hobbies
Right, like-
and their life?
how can we get this product made in the best way? Like, how can we make the best product in a way that is done as little waste as possible? You know what I mean?
There you
No,
go.
it's
There you go.
it's instead what's the most marketable thing that we can create for as cheap as possible. You know what I mean? And those are two very different things, because you can have someone, it's cheaper to have someone work 9 hours a day and pay them as little as possible. You know what I mean? So that's a good plan. But it's not the most efficient way by saying, how can we get people, trained on, or like, who is going to be the best to be able to conceptualize this and like, be the architect of it all. You know what I mean? And a team, get a team together and have them do it. And like, then the people who actually produce it, how can we get it done efficiently, not just cheaply? You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh dear God!
Because it's people's lives.
It's
not just their like the money that sinks into them. Yeah. Like,
we really need to societally start valuing time more than money.
Yeah, of course.
Because and we just don't. We're like, no. You need to spend all of your time getting money so that you can even be alive at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Being alive is a privilege.
Yeah, exactly. Eating is a privilege. That's one of my favorite things whenever I see people. We were talking about like situations with housing, like something more public and, ideally completely public. But like, well, those are my words. But like, and then when people argue against that, they're like, and you'll say something like, you see it online a lot. I don't know, I do anyway, where it's like, someone will be like, yeah, well, housing is actually, it should be a right. And in fact, actually, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is like a right technically in the Constitution or something. Like, like you have a right to like have shelter, basically.
Oh.
And, whatever, people, so people will say like it shouldn't be a commodity, it should be a right, which I agree with. But it's like, then you'll have people be like, really? Wow, well, people need food to survive. Should that be a right too? It's like, I mean, what? Yeah, right? Like, I mean, ideally, wouldn't you want it to be? I understand that it's not right now, and I'm not saying like right now it should just be like go into the grocery store and steal food. I mean, I wish it was just like that, but like, it wouldn't be stealing at that point. It would just be available. But, like, yeah, wouldn't you want to make it more like a situation where, like, food is just, like, you can count on it? You don't have to worry about, like, starvation is off the table. You know what I mean? Starvation, that's out. Dying from freezing to death in the winter, that's off the table. You have a place to live. You have food. You have a place to live. That's it. Dying because you couldn't afford medicine and you got, like, you have an illness, that's off the table. Like, these should be bare minimum discussions. You know what I mean?
I know,
and then you can talk about, like, should it be legal to own property? At all? Should anyone even own any of this? I get, and then, then we work on that. But, like, I understand someone being hesitant for that because if they don't, whatever, it's a big step or whatever,
Yeah.
But this stuff is just so obvious, like.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before, too, is, like, the melding of the two. It's, like, it shouldn't, if you fall, you shouldn't fall to your death.
Right.
You should fall, and you should be like, okay, now I got to live in like the shitty housing. I don't really like it, but if I want to get out of this, then like live in like a nice house again, like I used to have.
Right.
And,
like,
I can figure it out.
Hitting rock bottom should be like, you don't live in a life of luxury. You just live in like a life of like, you just get by. You're just fine. You're just like fine, but there,
you
you're
eat,
not.
You have a place to live, and you have like,
Yeah, you got like the basic necessities. You got you're not, and that doesn't mean just like literally like you just get enough food to survive and you don't have anything. It's like you live in with basic decency. You know what I mean? Like you lack luxury. Okay, that's like that should be rock bottom. Like.
Yeah, agree. And then it would be good because then people would not want to be there probably.
Exactly.
And that's still motivated. Like
Exactly.
You don't want to be like the poorest person that so maybe.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Or maybe you do, and maybe that's okay too.
Right, and if you do, then all right, fine. I mean, you're a human being. You didn't ask to be born. So.
Yeah. Yeah. The conversation that like having a social safety net is like inherently like enabling to people who just want to be lazy. Bitch. Everyone wants to just be lazy, but we don't. Most of us just don't just be lazy, and there's gonna 100% be people that just want to be, and they're gonna be.
Right, and that's
regardless of how the system's set up.
Yeah.
Most of them I think are probably at the top of it.
Yeah,
really
exactly right. Because You want to know what I find really frustrating is when people talk about, just because I'm saying like that should be the bare minimum of like hitting rock bottom. It's like,
Yeah.
guess what? All these people talk about like, oh well, people deserve, the entrepreneurial spirit. Like these people took the risk. They took the risk, so they
Yeah.
deserve the profit. It's like, okay, the risk they took is that worst case scenario. Basically, they end up in the situation I just described. They just have to go back
Hmm.
to not living a life of luxury. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's it. They're not going to
Yeah.
starve to death. If you lose your company, you're not homeless. You just like don't have the company anymore. Now you got to go get a job. Like, so the
Yeah.
risk they're taking is that they might end up like me and you. That's their
Yeah.
risk. The risk that we take is if my boss fires me after I just took out a mortgage, I'm fucked for life, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to pay off my mortgage? How am you know what I mean? Like, what do I do now? I'm in debt. I have to
Yeah.
like sell the house. What if I don't have a place what if I can't move back into the place that I just moved out of? You know what I mean? Now I
Hmm.
don't have health insurance. Like, that's a much
Yeah.
bigger risk. We just look at it like it's not because we're all taking it, so we act like it's normal. You really want me to feel bad for someone who's taking the risk of having a bunch of money and then wanting to make that money become more money, so they decided to do something with that money, and they might lose the money, but then they still, you know what I mean? And if you're leveraging your house against the fucking investment, or you know what I mean? Like you're using your house as like part of it. It's like, then okay, fine, you might have to like deal with consequences like that, but no one's telling you to do that. I don't know, like that's not what usually happens. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? It's just like,
I do.
what
Yeah.
risk are we talking about here?
I know.
The risk is that you might have to become a worker. That's it. So what about the
Yeah.
workers already?
I,
You know?
yeah. And honestly, most of the time, the people who are starting companies have money to be
Exactly.
doing it.
I'm even trying to be as
So
charitable as possible, where
I
I'm
know.
saying
I know.
maybe it's just enough money that they can barely afford it, but they did invest it. No, most
Yeah.
of the
It's
time
all
it's
rhetoric
like
stuff too,
extra.
and yeah, it's all rhetoric, and the people, when they talk about it politically, they know exactly who they're talking about,
Yeah.
and they're making it seem like it's like it's your neighbor, your neighbor. He lives right next door to you, and you're gonna make him homeless because of it's like no, you're talking about like Target.
Yeah.
You're talking
Yeah.
about you're talking about Exxon.
Right.
Relax.
I do think that there should be. In fact, I would almost go as far as to say like, in what the way I think it should be is like, if there's a, like I said, like we've been talking about it, if there's like a need that needs to be met, and someone and a group of people get together and they say like, hey, we'd like to start a business, or start a company, start like a thing to like produce this thing that
Up.
people want. Yeah, we want to produce that thing that people need. Like, they should be like supported in a way. You know what I mean? It shouldn't
Yeah.
even have to be that risky. It's just, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't really feel bad for the concept of like, oh man, I noticed that like the overhead for this one shipping company was like really high, so I figured like if I just cut a bunch of corners and I got like the right people talking to the right people, I could probably have like eked out like extra money, and then I could have lowered my prices, so I could have driven them out of business, hopefully, so that I could like take over the market. Damn it, it didn't work out. It's like, okay, go fuck yourself. Like, what are you doing? You're a leech
Yeah.
on society. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot different. Yeah, and we it's a lot different if someone's like, the prices of cooking oil is really high here because like we don't have any we have to always get it from these other people, and it's like really high here. So instead we kind of want to like do something that's going to make it like be easier for us to like either move away from that and like develop our own thing that's like local to our thing, and we'll just start producing this as like a replacement. Or maybe like we want to build like a railroad that's going to make shipping way easier because we're paying extra money because we got to ship the stuff in. So we want to set up like a railway and like get it going in, and like let's think about how we want that done, take the environment into account. You know what I mean? Like all this
Hmm.
stuff. Like, and then make that happen. Like, then yeah, go for it. Like, there's no risk. There you go. Do it. It's
Yeah.
necessary. It's needed. Yeah, and there,
We need a more like just like we need to be like I said before, like we really need to be working with like like the higher, like going somewhere
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be like the
yeah,
goal. It's
yeah.
like getting somewhere good.
Yep. Like working towards something better. That's it. That should be the main goal. It seems so obvious, but no. I mean, people will argue against their own interests left and right because they just buy into the idea that like those who rule them actually want to, they know better than you. Look at them. They're in powers. They must know better than
Yeah,
you. It's like, oh, well,
yeah.
why are they in power? It's like, well,
Hmm.
because they like climbed the ladder to power. That's why,
Yeah.
It's
They had to
like,
kill a few men, but
yeah, basically. Yeah, whether directly or indirectly, yeah, they caused mass suffering, so therefore they're there. That's it. Except for a few
like
exceptions, I guess, but like,
yeah. I feel like that's a decent place to wrap up.
Yeah, sure. I'm down with that. I'm getting
Yeah.
tired too, yeah.
Me too.
But
So tired.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, I don't blame you. Something
yeah.
in the air. Well, we're not even in the same state, but
I've been yeah.
Yeah.
My sleep schedule's been weird lately.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun.
Cool.
Yeah, that was a nice little. That felt like yeah, that was a nice like just stream of
Classic
thought. Just
rant,
talking about stuff that like we don't know where it's going. I don't know. It's fun
Yeah.
though. I don't know.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's always fun to just play the mental exercises out all the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We started with talking very specifically about communism and ended up talking about
Making
all the
pots and
different all the
pans.
yeah. I like that. I like that. I like that fucking tangent.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yep.
All right, cool.
All right.
Well, I appreciate. I mean, if anyone's still watching, if you guys want to throw a follow in, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Like and follow.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, if anyone does watch or is watching, I hope you enjoyed it. That was fun. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for coming.
This is the Pinemen.